The state lottery is a tax on the poor. We've heard this one, because poor people spend a disproportionate fraction of their salary on the lottery and on Vegas, no doubt. Okay? I thought about this. I tried to believe this, but I don't. The state lottery is not a tax on the poor. It's a tax on all those people who never did well in mathematics. That's what it is. Don't underestimate that. Why are there all these news stories about the subprime lending disaster? Okay, they talk about predatory lenders and the economy and this and that. Why isn't it just that the people who borrowed the money couldn't do the math? Couldn't say, what happens if the interest rate goes up? So it's really a math illiteracy problem. Not any other kind of problem, because therein is the defenses that you can put up against the charlatans of the world. I got one. This shows up even in news copy. This is Bayer, the folks who make Bayer aspirin. This was an actual advertisement that was taken out in a magazine called Physics Today, and here's what it says. By the way, they're boasting that their scientists actually go into schools to get kids excited about science as part of their job to do so. It says, you're on. Try to get them interested. Oh, by the way, they show a black kid and a girl, okay? So in their mind, these are the challenging cases, okay? The black people and the girls, okay? And I thought, like, who's president of the United States? Is he black or girl? No, I don't think so. Okay, he's neither of the two. So, okay. Ron, try to get them interested in why lighter things fall faster than heavier things. And how? Come on, it's your turn. So these are just, so they actually did eventually fix it. And so now it says, try to get them interested in why lighter things fall as fast as heavier things. That's what Galileo, that's the Galileo experiment. They finally fixed that. Okay. Moving on. Okay, now, what's odd is I haven't said anything yet. It's just his name. Let's back up for a moment. I live in Lower Manhattan. I live closer to ground zero than the height of the towers. And I was there September 11th. And these are frames from my camcorder outside my window. The North Tower is on fire. If you look very carefully in that picture, you might not be able to see in the back row, but the South Tower had just been hit, and you can see some material punching forward. You see the flame, that's the fuel igniting. The fuel doesn't ignite instantly. It actually has to spread, get atomized, and then it ignites, and that's what's happening in that picture, and then the entire building is engulfed. To put this in context, you see the black building standing in front? That sleek black building? That building outside of the island of Manhattan would be the tallest building on the eastern seaboard. Okay? It's a very tall hotel. It's called the Millennium Hotel. And so the trade towers are huge. 2 buildings, an acre per floor of office space times 107 floors per. Now here's what happens. George Bush, within a week of this, gave us a speech attempting to distinguish we from they. And who are they? These were sort of the Muslim fundamentalists. And he wants to distinguish we from they. And how does he do it? He says, okay? He says, our God, of course, it's actually the same God. But that's a detail. Let's hold that minor fact aside for the moment. Allah of the Muslims is the same God as the God of the Old Testament. So, but let's hold that aside. He says, our God is the God, he's loosely quoting Genesis, biblical Genesis. Our God is the God who named the stars. Okay? Okay. Now, I actually took this picture from the West Wing. Actually, it's the East Wing. I was there. This is the medal ceremony. You see, if you look carefully in the photo, there are medals on a platform there for the awarding of the Presidential Medal of Science. I was on the committee to tell him who to give the medals to. And he just did what we told him, which was good. Now, what he did not do, he did not read the citations. Got somebody else to do that. He put the medal around people's necks. But I was invited to the ceremony. Here's the problem with his comment. Say, our God is the God who named the stars. The problem is, 2/3 of all stars that have names have Arabic names. I don't think he knew this. That would confound the point that he was making. Arabic star names. Okay, you ready? Here they are. Okay, screen 1, screen 2. Every one of these stars, among the brightest stars in the night sky, are Arabic. Arabic. And you say, how does that come to be? How did that happen? Well, first, he said that before I was on his Rolodex, because I could have hooked him up. I said, no, say something different. Okay? Not that, because it's just wrong. Let's go back in time. How did the stars end up getting Arabic names? We have to go back 1,000 years to Islam, AD 800 to 1100. Oops, I can't use AD in this audience. So CE. CE? Common Era? I don't have a problem with AD. It's just culture, right? I don't have an issue with that. I don't. I'm sorry, okay? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying, oh my God. I'm okay with that, all right? I like listening to Handel's Messiah, okay? I think it's beautiful music. So, but there's more about that. We'll get more in that. So, what happened in Islam? Islam, the crossroads. While Europe was disemboweling heretics in Baghdad over that period, were the crossroads. There were Jews, Muslims, Christians, doubters. They weren't, the word atheist didn't exist back then. They were all sharing ideas. Great advances were made in engineering, astronomy, mathematics. These 3 words are Arabic words: algebra, algorithm. Our numerals are called Arabic numerals. Those are the numerals we use. All traceable to that period because they basically invented algebra there. Okay? That went on until the 12th century. You read history books, they say, oh, the Mongols sacked the libraries in Baghdad, and there'll be explanations. What they tend to leave out was another force at work, and that was the efforts of this man, Al-Ghazali, who was a Muslim cleric, who was to Islam what St. Augustine was to Christianity. What he did was he took all these ways people were practicing Islam, put them together, codified it, said, this is what you need to do to be a good Muslim. Okay, just as what Augustine did, which included how to exactly burn the witches, that kind of thing. So it was all in there. It was all in there. And in there was the statement that manipulating numbers was the work of the devil. And that cut out the kneecaps of the entire mathematical enterprise of that period, because he gained cultural power and political power with his philosophies. And you know something? Islam has not recovered from that since. And there have been times when it has risen to great cultural force. In Spain, Islam rose to great cultural heights. No scientific or engineering discoveries in that period. It's tragic. How many Muslims in the world? There's 1.3 billion. Billion. Let's do some analysis. The Nobel Prize, 1900 to 2007. Okay? Let's take a look at how many Nobel Prizes were won by the Jews. How many Jews are in the world? 15 million tops? Let's take a look. Doing it for the sciences, of course. Biomedical, chemistry, physics, economics. 25%, 1/4 of all Nobel Prizes in the sciences have gone to Jews. I saw 2 people in the back going a high five back there. The Jews did not invent the high five, okay? I just want to make that clear. Let's understand that one, okay? Do something else. Just No, we're happy to share the high five with you. So, let's look at practicing Muslims. Are you ready? Here we go. 0, 0, 1, 1. And in fact, the one in physics was a Pakistani Muslim, not a Middle Eastern Muslim. And if you count economics as a science, it's like 1, 1.5, 2. 0.3% of the total. You want to look at the relative impact? Relative impact, here it goes. The Jews have won 80 times more Nobel Prizes than the Muslims, and they are 1/80th of that population. That would be 6,400 times the impact. I lament, I celebrate the Jews, but I lament what might have been discovered had 1.3 billion Muslims had the cultural drive to discover as what happened 1,000 years ago. If that had been the case, they'd have every Nobel Prize. If that tradition had continued, but it is gone. It's not there. And that is a loss to the world, especially given the legacy that it had enjoyed 1,000 years ago. So I fast forward to the United States of America, early 21st century, and I ask what forces are operating to somehow squash our scientific curiosities, and then you find billboards like this. The Big Bang Theory, you've got to be kidding, signed God. Okay. Now maybe we should be impressed that somebody actually spent money to pay for the billboard. Well, here's one. Here's a bumper sticker. This one is more sort of an intelligent design bumper sticker. It says, the Big Bang Theory, God spoke, and bang, it happened. So that puts God like right before the Big Bang, where we have no clue. Well, what that is signs of intelligent design, this movement. You're all familiar with it. You all tracked the stories. But it's not just innocent meanderings. It actually affects, for example, advertising. All right, a 2004 ad campaign for an SUV. In the world of rugged SUVs, it's survival of the fittest, right? But then the intelligent design was gaining power, and then what happened to that same ad a year later? You ready? Its features are nothing short of a miracle, right? So it affected advertising. Now, I think intelligent design gets a bad rap. It gets a bad rap. And let me explain. Let's go back in time to an unimpeachably brilliant scientist, Claudius Ptolemy, author of Almagest, the pinnacle of the geocentric understanding of the universe, appears in that work. An Arabic name meaning the greatest, protected in the Middle East while Europe was in the Dark Ages, and so translated into Arabic at the time. Ptolemy wrote, as he was coming up with these epicycles, he looked up and said, as I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia. He's driven to poetic utterances in the face of not fully understanding what the planets are doing. That's intelligent design. He's crediting Zeus for what's going on, even though he doesn't understand it. Galileo is not, doesn't write that way. He's more candid about his ignorance. Every time Mars comes around, it tugs us. Every time Jupiter comes around, it tugs on Mars, which tugs us. And you have this system that gets impossibly complex for Isaac Newton at the time. He knew enough to say that if you continued this system, it would go unstable and fly apart. But it hasn't. But he knows his equation works for any pair of objects. How do you reconcile that? God steps in and corrects things every now and then. That's in his book. It is the God of the gaps intelligent design argument. He got to the limits of his brilliance, put God in, and said, God fixes it. There you have it. This kept going. And by the way, Newton I count as the most brilliant guy there ever was. It's up to you whether you want to aspire to become Newton, because when he died, he was a virgin. So there's a cost to being the most brilliant person there ever was. Christian Huygens, in a book called Cosmotheros, brilliant in his generation, one of the most brilliant scientists of the day, he wrote about the planets and Newton's laws, and then he got to biology and didn't quite understand why there was life, and then he invoked God in all the places where he didn't understand what he was talking about. So now now we get to Laplace, celestial mechanics. Laplace looked at Newton's problem and said, that's kind of cool. I wonder if I can solve that. this multi-body problem where everybody's tugging on everybody else, but there's one main force of gravity at work. So he writes a 5-volume tome called Celestial Mechanics. And in there, he pioneers perturbation theory. That's the theory we have one main force and then other little tugs. How do you treat that mathematically? He pioneers that, solves it for the solar system, demonstrates that the solar system is stable, far beyond anything Newton had imagined. This work was called up by Napoleon. Napoleon was not only everything we know him to be, he was a great reader of mechanics and physics books, so that he would know not only how to make the cannonball, he would know where the cannonball would hit when he shot it. And so he summoned up this 5-volume tome, read it, said to Laplace, this is a brilliant piece of work, but you make no mention of the architect of the system, making direct reference back to Isaac Newton. And Laplace's reply was, sir, I had no need for that hypothesis. So what worries me is, had Newton not stopped and ceded his brilliance to God, he could have easily come up with perturbation theory. Newton invented calculus practically on a dare. Perturbation theory is just an extension of calculus. Perturbation theory, it's a nice, elegant extension, but you know Newton could have knocked this out in an afternoon. You know this, okay? So my problem is not that people have invoked intelligent design. Brilliant people have done it before. They'll keep doing it. I don't have an issue with that. I worry if it prevents you from making further discoveries. I don't want the intelligent design person to be the one looking for the cure for Alzheimer's, because they'll get to their ignorance and say, well, not only can I not figure this out, no one else in the lab will figure it, no one else who will ever be born will figure this out. It is intelligently designed. Then that person is removed from the set of people who would solve that problem. And so I say, sure, there's a lot of beautiful things in the universe, but don't sweep under the rug the fact that you have evidence of stupid design. Completely stupid design. Stupid. Stuff no one would come up with. Nobody. Okay, look at humans. There's leukemia, hemophilia, sickle cell, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, Parkinson. We have a narrow view of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're practically blind compared with what's out there. By the way, if you could see microwaves, everybody's cell phone would be like a glow, you know? And you could say, what's that in your pocket? Are you enjoying the show? You know, you have total access to radiation of all wavelengths. We exhale most of the oxygen we inhale. It's a very inefficient process. That's why you can breathe in and out of a paper bag and not suffocate. You can keep that up for like 20 minutes. This goes on and on and on. We can't detect deadly ionizing radiation, radon. We can't smell CO or CO2. Mosquitoes can smell CO2. We can't. Okay? I'm not asking for much here. Okay? What am I asking for? We eat, drink, and speak through the same orifice in our body, guaranteeing that some percentage of us will choke to death every year? We can do better than that. Dolphins do better than that. They breathe through a hole someplace else. No dolphin has ever choked trying to laugh as it breathed, okay? And you saw Flipper. Flipper laughs, you know. So this is what's there. And humans, the Earth. Volcanoes level cities. We had an Indonesian tsunami, killed 200,000 people. Oh, the Christians say, oh, well, that was mostly Muslims. That was God saying you're a Muslim. Until you look back at 1755 at Lisbon, the holiest city, one of the holiest cities in Europe at the time. It was Sunday morning, All Saints' Day, 10 o'clock in the morning. Everybody was in church. And a magnitude 8 earthquake struck Lisbon, killing 80,000 people, mostly in churches as they worshipped. That was basically the birth of the modern atheist movement, is traceable to that event. Okay, that's true. Voltaire and all these guys wrote inspired by that event. Floods, tornadoes, lightning strike. We can't live on 2/3 of... People talk about Earth as some cradle for life. Excuse me, 90% of all life that ever lived is now extinct. If you actually look at the evidence, it's clear that Earth is actually trying to kill us. The universe. Most planet orbits are unstable on very long time scales, longer than what Laplace would show. We're about to collide with Andromeda in 7 billion years, so don't worry about that one just yet. It's a one-way universe. A supernova could go off and fry our ozone layer. I'm just saying, if you look, you don't have to look hard to find out everything in the universe that's stupid. Stupid defined by not good for us. Okay? And so if there is a designer, the designer is equally stupid as intelligent. You have to accept that fact. I like the ball socket in the shoulder. That's a good idea, right? You can move it around in a circle. Can't do that with your knee. Okay? Your knee doesn't bend this way, not on purpose at least. But your shoulder can do, that's a good, I like that design. I call that intelligent design. Something I would call stupid design is like, what's that going on between our legs? Got like a sewage system mixed with an entertainment complex. You know, it's like bad design. Bad design.
Được chưa? Như vậy chúng ta thấy nè, sau một thời gian là một chu kỳ, vật trở lại vị trí cũ và chuyển động theo hướng cũ. Đúng không ạ? Đó là xong cái nội dung của cái bài số 3 của chúng ta. Bây giờ tiếp tục chúng ta qua cái bài số 4 nha. Qua bài số 4. Vật dao động điều hòa có tọa độ như hình dưới đây. Hãy mô tả dao động điều hòa của vật. Thì chúng ta nhận thấy rằng cái dao động điều hòa này các bạn cũng mô tả giống như cái câu trên thôi, câu số 1 thôi. Chúng ta cũng trả lời vật dao động điều hòa có đồ thị dao động là một hình sin là được rồi. Được chưa? Rồi câu B. Câu B người ta nói rằng xác định biên độ, ly độ của con lắc ở các thời điểm 0, 0,1, 0,2, 0,3. Như vậy đầu tiên thầy xác định biên độ. Mà muốn xác định được biên độ chúng ta coi cái độ lệch lớn nhất của nó. Độ lệch lớn nhất đây. Độ lệch lớn nhất đây. Chiếu vào cái trục OX là 2. Chiếu vào trục OX là -2. Như vậy biên độ của chúng ta luôn luôn là số dương. Như vậy nó phải là cộng 2 cm. Được chưa? Rồi bây giờ tính tới ly độ nè. Tại thời điểm t bằng 0 thì chúng ta suy ra ly độ x0 của chúng ta. Đây, tại thời điểm t bằng 0 nằm ngay đây. X0 cũng nằm ngay đây luôn. Như vậy x0 này bằng 0 luôn các bạn. Đúng không ạ? Nằm ngay vị trí này, đúng không? Đồ thị của nó là đây. Đồ thị nó ngay điểm nào thì đó là chiếu vào trục OX là nó ra. Đồ thị ngay đây thì chiếu vào trục X ngay chính nó. Rồi, tại thời điểm T1 là bằng 0,1. Đúng chưa? Bằng 0,1 giây. Thì suy ra x1 của các bạn là nhiêu? 0,1